The Mike Tomlin team meeting where he informed the boys that he was going to step down. I think we're starting to get a little bit more information from the scene in the room where it happened. Here's Christian Kuntz on the Christian Kuntz podcast. A little bit more information on him. He's the long snapper for the Pittsburgh Steelers, has been since 2020. He is the all-time leading tackler, I believe, for the Duquesne Dukes, which is a college within Pittsburgh. It literally sits on top of a hill on top of the Allegheny County Jail in the middle of downtown Pittsburgh.
Beautiful.
He went to high school at Char Valley, which is in Pittsburgh. This is Pittsburgh kid basically playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a long snapper. Here's him talking about what Tomlin said to him and his kind of thoughts on what the messaging was.
I don't know how much I'm really allowed to share, but I will, he did make a point that, he didn't have no desire to really coach any other football team but the group of guys that he was looking at, with this group of guys. So he did say that to us. Can things change? You could offer, $20 million to go. He'll get whatever coaching job,
whatever he wants,
whatever the hell he wants to do. The dude's gonna do. So, but he did make a point to tell us, in there that he was stepping down and he had no intentions on coaching any other guys but the guys that he's looking at and the crew that So he had much respect, and obviously guys like Cam Hayward are in there that have been with him for 15 years. I knew they've been there 9 years.
Yeah. Did you guys have any anticipation that this was about to happen? Was there any sort of weird energy?
I'm telling you right now, there was the only weird energy going on is when you lose, it sucks. Right. There's garbage bags, guys are clearing out their locker, guys are trying to get out of town quick, guys are trying to get exit physicals. There was no weird, feeling besides that we lost and everyone's pissed that the season's over, and we found out, by the time we got out of the meeting and he had told us it was on.
Yeah, so he kind of echoes the sentiment that we're hearing from the athletic reporter DeFalbo, who came out and reported that TJ Watt said numerous times while the message was being delivered, no. They said Joey Porter Jr. got emotional and started almost hyperventilating and crying in the room while the message was being delivered. And then he reported that at the end of the meeting, as is such, for the locker room after a game where, Tom was there to greet just like Coach Vrabel is, whatever, they did one last kind of take the tractor another round where he was at the door and basically dapped up everybody as they won through. So whenever you talk about emotional meeting and an emotional time, it felt like they were right in the middle of all of that, AJ. And I don't know if you've talked to Aaron, but it sounds like the players in the room, so locked in on everything that they were trying to accomplish this year, had no thoughts that this was what this meeting was going to be, which is, I guess now kind of crazy to think about, but that's literally what a locker room and a coach is supposed to do, is keep his players so laser focused on something as opposed to all the outside noise, AJ.
Yeah, I don't know about you, I've never been in a situation like that to where a coach has stepped down and told the whole team, in a big team meeting, that he wasn't. I know you had back and forth with Rich Rod when he thought he was going to go and then he didn't, and all of that situation. But I think the thing where it says one of the assistants claimed it felt like a funeral. That's what it feels like, a receiving line. Like Tomlin was at it's at a funeral. Unfortunately, the family has to stand at the casket and have a receiving line when people come into the viewing. That's what this felt like when everyone was walking out. And obviously, it's not a funeral, and Tomlin has, led these guys for so long. But yeah, the fact that they are so caught off guard is a little bit surprising. I guess maybe in their mind they thought, I don't know, maybe it's possible, but it's Mike T. He's not going anywhere. So I guess when it was official to them, that probably made them. That's when it really hit home. Probably.
Yeah, 19 years, obviously a very long time. That's a building becoming an adult into its adulthood, sophomore in college, from literally birth of 19 years. So, Rooney and the family and the Steelers building also probably pretty emotional. The players, though, is very fascinating to me how they responded. And obviously that bodes well for anybody who wonders about the type of coach that Tomlin was to these guys.
Yeah, I've talked to a few different people in different areas of the building. The entire building was shocked and very, very bummed out. And what DeFabo wrote, a lot of what people that I talked to, they said, yeah, it was kind of like a funeral in there. There was definitely tears. A lot of them, no one blamed Mike Tomlin for the losses or whatever they've had this year. There was some talk about, maybe they expected change with coordinators, but they never expected a change at the top. Tomlin's had a year left on his contract, and all the players expected him to finish that out. So yes, it was a shock to all of them. I think it was a shock to most of the building, and it just shows yes, the the wins and losses didn't go everyone's way that we wanted to the last few years, 5-7 years or whatever. But I mean, the impact that he had on all of his players' lives was incredible.
Well, and also it felt like all of Pittsburgh, emotional bunch, blue collar bunch. You know, a lot of Italians, a lot of Irish people, a lot of emotional folks. You know, that ilk of individual.
Oh yeah.
And it's like afterwards, it's like we are thankful for him, though. Like everybody in Pittsburgh, I think, has the same message. Like, hey, we appreciate the hell out of what you did for Pittsburgh. Immediately afterwards, day of, this guy needs to be gone. Okay, let's get this guy. The last 4 years, get this guy out of there. Fire Tomlin chants in the stadium happening from Pittsburgh people. And then as soon as it's announced that he stepped down, Pittsburgh people like, he did the right thing, and we appreciate him for that. It does feel like there is not a lot of like negative juice from Pittsburgh to Coach Tomlin at this moment at all. And normally it takes a couple years, right? Like normally there's like a couple year transition period where they like hate a guy, let's move on, yada, yada, yada. And I'm not just directly talking about the Patriots and everything like that, but usually there is like a couple year turnover where it's like, yeah, we will look back and thank James Franklin at Penn State would be a good one. Like I think they will
McCarthy in Green Bay.
Like a couple years where it takes a little bit to like kind of respect and appreciate what it is. Feels like Pittsburgh is a place that like immediately upon it happening, they were like, thank you for what you did, and thank you for what you have done. And I think they genuinely feel that way, and it sounds like the entire building, including the players, didn't want it to end, but also feel the exact same way. Everybody really grateful for Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. That's abnormal these days, I think, for a coach, especially at a place for how long he's been, and certainly a city like Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting seeing the correlation between Pittsburgh and Baltimore right now. They're kind of both going through that same thing where they're done with their legendary coach. It's just like putting an old dog down. Like you can see it coming, and you know that it's the best move for your family.
Well said.
But on the day of putting the dog down, it's sad. It's going to bum you out. And it might last a couple days, but, 3 days later, 1 week later, all you're thinking about is the good times you had with old Yeller, with old Red. That's just part of getting rid of a legendary coach. But that is also the nice part of it. Like, as a New England fan, it is nice being removed, and a little different, but still, it is nice being removed from the Bill era and then seeing old clips. It's like, oh, that was such a good time.
Now, Red was the damnedest dog
Yeah, it was.
that I had ever seen. You know what dog I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I know Red.
I mean, you couldn't escape Red.
No, you couldn't. His nose.
Fast.
Get to it. But the thing that Red had was a hunger for love making.
That's right.
And Blake took advantage.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Blake took advantage. Won over to Warden. Take that dog outside. Oh, a blue thick hound down the street this way.
Yeah.
Keep him away for a few days.
That's old Red, baby.
And all of a sudden, we're going, boom. He's going Tennessee. There's a chance that he's gone and seeing that. You do think about the good times with dogs like Red.
No matter what, especially not even on the day. 20 years from now, you're going to be thinking about old Red. No matter who your current dog is, you're always going to have that
moment,
that comparison to the two. And maybe the new dog's better, but the old dog still has got some of those tricks.
Well, speaking of a new dog having to come into a lot of buildings, more specifically the Pittsburgh Steelers one, Steelers president Art Rooney II said he and general manager Omar Khan will lead the Steelers head coaching search. Omar Khan was quoted as saying, "I ain't telling you anything."
Yep.
That is basically how he operates. He comes on our show. I think he likes us. He has told us that he likes us. He obviously knows the show. I feel like because we have Pittsburgh representation, people in Pittsburgh are forced to kind of know of our show. He's come on the show, though. Very rarely will give up anything. Very rarely. I mean, this guy plays his cards close to his vest, and he plays it very different than old Pittsburgh Steelers regime with Colbert.
Yes.
He does his own thing. So I'll be excited to see what he looks for as opposed to what the old Pittsburgh Steelers would have looked for.
Yeah.
There's a chance he kind of writes his own kind of story with the Pittsburgh Steelers like he already has been doing over the last couple of years.
Yes, obviously Omar's going to have a ton of say, but Art Rooney II is also going to be involved. And obviously he knew how his predecessors, his family has hired. He was actually the one who announced Tomlin as the hiring. And I think there's an early indication. Chuck Noll was a DC, a young DC. Bill Cowher was a young DC. Mike Tomlin was a young DC. Right now, so far, their interviews, they have 6 young DCs and then the 1 offensive guy in Nate Schilhaas, who is also young. But the oldest right now is Halfley at 45. Everyone is 45 or younger. 6 DCs, 1 OC they've requested.
We're looking for 20 years here.
Yeah.
Who can be the 20-year coach? Isn't that what everybody's looking for, though?
Yep. That's why it's a huge hire, because the Steelers have been able to do that and only have 3 coaches since what year? How long?
69.
I mean, that's wild. There's so many there's coaches, there's so much turnover. Yeah, you don't want to, if you're the Steelers, you don't want to start that cycle and get out of what you've had with all this consistent success with these coaches. Like, you don't want to have a guy for 2 years and then all of a sudden, once you get in that cycle, good luck getting out of it.
Well, I mean, ownership Kraft, he just talked about it, did he not? About making the decision to move on from Coach Mayo after 1 year? Because they obviously had the same setup for a long time. At GM and head coach, it was one person. It's kind of his world. We got great consistency here. Then they had to go to a new coach, and all he's thinking about is, I think this is going to be the next Belichick. We're hoping this is another 20 years, this guy leading the program, doing his thing. Instead, after 1 year, he has to move on. He knows that, oh, no, we cannot become the place that is firing coaches before their contracts are up, because then I'm going to have to start paying so many people. But also that means we're restarting. That was like one thing we were good at. So him making that decision to move on from Coach Mayo after 1 year, especially with the amount of people telling him you can't be the place. Mm-hmm. What do you want to be, the Titans?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? You start talking about places that have fired a lot of coaches. You want to be the Browns? Is that what you want to become? It's like, that's like a cardinal sin seemingly for NFL ownership at this point. So Kraft making that move was insane. Now, would the Rooneys be able to do the same if it happened in the same fashion? Who knows? But Kraft doing that was gigantic, I think, for you guys, especially finding the right guy.
Absolute legend. You could argue is probably the greatest move he's had since hiring Bill Belichick as the head coach and making him the GM and basically doing the same thing with Vrabel. It feels like the younger coaches are better for the more established culture places. Like Harbaugh, for instance, he's an older coach, but he goes to the Giants where they haven't had a good winning culture. Tennessee was the other team that wanted him. They haven't really had that culture since Vrabel. Like the Steelers and the Ravens, and that's probably basically it. You could argue the Packers too. They could be places that could hire young guys and be comfortable, but there are some places that, like, they might not even be looking for that cool young guy anymore. Like, they're more looking for the Big Mike or the Harbaugh to bring in some sort of winning culture, and then for that guy to maybe pass the baton to get the, more young for 20 years coach.